During my Nightscape photography adventures, I'll often be on the lookout for opportunities to get out those longer focal length lenses. And I guess if you're the same as me, you'll most often be shooting your astro landscape photos with fairly wide angle lenses, maybe I guess between 14 and 24 millimeters. Well, to be honest, it's a lot easier to shoot with those wider lenses. They just tend to be a bit more forgiving with shutter speeds. And let's face it, they fit more in. So, as a general rule, if you want to shoot with longer lenses, even let's say 35 or 50 millimeters, and want to fit a foreground subject of interest, the challenge is to line up all of this in the frame. Now, to be honest, I do enjoy the challenge of these scenarios, and I'm always on the lookout for these opportunities. So here in the Southern Hemisphere, we have a really good chance to shoot the Milky Way galactic core as it sets low down in the western sky. Now this typically happens later in the year, from late August through to the end of October. It stretches horizontally right across the sky from south to north, and it looks magnificent. Now I'd have to say I've captured some of my favourite images at this time of year, and it really suits wide and large size panoramas. Now if you're very keen, you can get the same composition as early as June, but it will be just before dawn in the morning hours. So at this time of year, we come to the realization that the Milky Way core will soon be completely hidden from view for a few months. And I guess that gives us a little extra motivation to get those shots that you won't get again until next year. This video is all about one such adventure for me. I set myself a goal to seek out some compositions where I could use the 50mm focal length lens. So I got in the car and headed out of town to see what I could find. If you follow this channel, you'll soon realize that I love trees, and I'll often default to them when I'm seeking out good foregrounds to shoot. So here in Australia, there are so many trees around, but the challenge is always finding one that can be isolated away from the rest. I like single trees in the frame with a clear sky above. So that was my goal as I drove around the country roads in search of adventure. I came across a composition that took my attention. This tree was right on the side of the road, so access was easy. It was clear to the west, so I checked my PhotoPills app to get a handle on the Milky Way alignment, and it was perfect. Now, you will notice another tree right alongside this one, but I worked out that if I shot in at the 50mm focal length in portrait orientation, I could actually isolate my chosen tree with no problems. Fantastic. So I had one spot marked in the GPS. Let's see what else I could find in this region. My plan when I go out looking for subjects to shoot is to lay out a route that gives me a start and an end point. That's logical and not too far to drive between locations. Now it didn't take me long to find my next target. Down that same road, I couldn't help but notice this gnarly old dead tree just off the main road. This would be a perfect subject to shoot with the core behind. Now, the other thing I decided was that I wanted to use the tracker to shoot the galactic core. So all of these spots would be easy for that because there was clear skies all around. I continued on and found myself driving down a bumpy old dirt road. Now, that is certainly nothing unusual for me. But once again, I found a couple of gorgeous old trees right alongside the track. I guess one of the advantages I have in the region where I live is that it's fairly flat and sparse. So we have lots of clear sky. And when you find the tree, the composition is usually fairly obvious. Okay, so the weather forecast was good and I was feeling really good about heading back out there that night. When I arrived at the first location, I decided to get the tracker out first and get my shots of the Milky Way core while it was still a little bit higher in the sky. I guess it gives me a margin for error. As I set up the tracker, I was amazed by the bright planet Venus, which was positioned right in the middle of the core. It's by far the brightest object in the sky, and it dominates the view. But you know what? I kind of liked it that way. Now on this night, I was trying something a little new. Well, new for me anyway. For my tracked shots, I was shooting single 3-minute exposures and applying long exposure noise reduction in camera. I figured that may give me a cleaner shot, especially since I wasn't shooting multiple images and stacking like I usually do. Now, to be honest, I'm not sure it made any difference, but it's certainly an option for these types of shots. Oh, and I just have to mention how awesome this Z6 Mark II camera is for taking these extra long exposures. I don't need any intervalometers. I don't need to set it to bulb mode. I simply extend the shutter beyond the standard 30 seconds and go from there. I can go right up to 15 minutes if I want to. I absolutely love these cameras. They have so many great features for nightscape shooting. So anyway, I was on a roll here, and to be honest, getting a little bit tired by the time I pulled up at my final stop for the night. I still had time to sneak in a little cuppa and a biscuit before getting into the shooting. When I got out of the car and looked down the road past the tree I was there to shoot, I had a crazy idea. Why don't I shoot a 50mm panorama? Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time, so off I went. Just at this moment, a thin layer of cloud was drifting right across the scene. I liked the ambience of it, but I hoped like crazy that would actually translate into the photo. It was a little tricky to get far enough back from the tree to fit it all in, but in the end, I was absolutely delighted with the outcome. So there you go, my latest adventure out under the stars, shooting with only the Nikon 50mm f1.8 lens. Yes, there are some limitations as far as compositions are concerned, I think, but the results at these longer focal lengths can be just great. And by the way, regarding that panorama shot, I still had long exposure noise reduction enabled, so my 8-second shutter speeds were extended out to 16 seconds once it finished applying the noise reduction. I was hoping it wouldn't result in too much time between the shots and trouble with the software stitching, but I think it was just fine. You know, there's always something new to learn when we get out shooting nightscapes under the stars. And I tell you what, there's no place I would rather be. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful week. I'd love you to like and perhaps subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this style of content. Let's chat down below in the comments section, and you know, I'm always keen to hear about your nightscape adventures. All right, well, until I see you next time, take care and bye for now.